right, what do you got, Mike? You want to pivot now and talk about was Sunday the best win?
Yeah, I do.
Because I think it's prisoner of the moment, but I'll let you guys answer first.
Regular season, by the way.
I know. Yeah, I get that. I get that.
No. I'm going to tell you a better win. I'll give you two better wins.
Don't say Thursday night against the Jets. Baker Mayfield.
That's top 5.
It was definitely electric. I ain't going to lie.
I was there. You were there that night, too.
I wasn't there that night.
I was there that night.
I was in San Francisco, but I was watching it on TV.
I left drunk on victory. Woo! I didn't have the victory Bud Light, but I left drunk on victory.
That was a big win.
The Browns beat, I want to say, 2003. They beat prime Michael Vick. And Jim Donovan gives the run William run.
Oh, yeah.
To make the playoffs. They had to win that game. And they won that game. The Browns ended up going to the playoffs, playing the Steelers, and they had that game won, except for the Steelers just basically ran back a kick, and Kelly Holcomb threw for like 400 yards. They ended up losing.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I was young, but I remember watching that.
Yeah, that was a big victory.
That was William Green was the running back?
And Jim's call was all-time great.
Yeah, one. That's a bigger one. Yeah.
See, that's too far back. God, I ain't looked that
far.
Well,
we're going back to 99. What year were you born?
94.
You child.
Man. Regular season, you say?
Yeah.
Now really for your purposes, I mean, you don't remember anything before you were 10. You can't.
When was you born?
94.
So we're talking 04.
I got 5 years of. Dang. Yeah,
Tyvis.
That's tough.
That's a long way away. My top 2 is the Thursday night against the Jets and this one. Would this one be better than that? I mean, from an atmosphere standpoint, the Jets was way better. Way better.
That was the best win I've experienced inside the new stadium.
But this one it's because of what he had. Like the circumstances of this game.
Yeah. And the fact that we expected it to be a loss.
Exactly. So
So Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's really hard to say one is better than the other. The Thursday night win stands out because you have to remember, we broke a how long losing streak?
Yeah, 30?
I mean, it was
32, 33, 32, 33, something like that.
It was ridiculous, okay? It was absolutely ridiculous. And when we walked out, I remember I've never seen a crowd collectively that euphoric, not even leaving playoff games. But I just remember the thought was, we got it. We finally got it. Mm-hmm. Because in that moment, there were no Baker detractors.
No.
None. Mm-mm. Everybody was like, wow, as advertised. Shows up, winning streak's over. First time he touches the field. So that was really, really, really big.
Yeah, it was.
For me, and this is totally personal, and nobody else would say, oh, yeah, that game. But I've told this story on the air before. It's appropriate today because today, October 17th, is the 15th anniversary of my father's death. And the last game he ever watched in any sport was the Browns-Giants primetime game in 2008.
Braylon Edwards had a long touchdown.
The Giants were undefeated.
Yep.
They were the defending Super Bowl champions. Yep. And the Browns won, but it wasn't just that they won. I remember telling my mom that morning, I really don't want to do this because the last time my dad sees the Browns, it's going to be a thumping. Because hospice had told my dad and the family earlier that week, 72 hours. He'd been a long fight with cancer. But I told my mom, God, I wish it wasn't the Giants. Like, he's going to have to go out on that. That stinks. And right hand to God, you can look up the box score. It was October 13th, 14th, a few days before he died.
October 14th.
You have the box score. It was 35-4. I remember the details of every play of that game. It was 35-14.
Correct.
The Browns didn't punt.
Correct.
They didn't fumble.
Correct.
And they didn't throw an interception.
Yep. Correct.
Every drive they had ended in a touchdown except for the drive before halftime, which they ran out of clock. The Giants scored 14 points, and the Browns looked on that day like they were an absolute world-beating team.
Who was the coach at the time?
08.
Romeo? Was it Romeo?
I don't
Was this
know.
the 10 and
Was
6
it
season?
Mangini?
No. This is after
08.
10.
It was October
Was
08.
that the 10 and 6
No,
season?
10 and 7 was 2007.
They didn't have a great team that year, the Browns.
No, they were supposed to be coming back and having a great year.
But they did not.
Was this Derek Anderson,
was
Braylon Edwards, Kellen Winslow?
And during that first part of that year, Braylon Edwards had like 19 touchdowns or something stupid in 20. It was in 07 he had them touchdowns, but he had some drops though. So starting off that year, he had dropped like 3 or 4 bombs, just right in his hands, wide open. Well, Braylon Edwards comes back, he catches the football in this game, and I believe was Ruben Drones on that team?
Might have been.
Ruben Drones, man.
The other thing that I remember about it was my hospice had said double his medication because he was on morphine. And once you get towards the end, they said we want him to be euphoric. He might be a little delusional. He'll lose some of his deductive reasoning, but he'll feel great. He'll be in a good mood. He won't be somber and solemn knowing that the end is near. My dad was actually making jokes about, it's time to go. And it was just a wild transformation once we doubled his medication. When the game was over, it was time to go to bed. I was out in Phoenix with them for 4 or 5 weeks before he passed. My dad said, and he thought this was true when he died. And again, because the morphine had kind of altered his reality, even though he was in the moment in the games, knowing every play and knowing everything that was going on, big picture, he was a little delusional. And with all the seriousness in the world when the game was over, he said, wow, Jay, all of the sporting events we've experienced together as father and son, everything that we've been through, never getting to see a championship, how fitting that as I'm ready to leave the stage, the Browns win the Super Bowl. And I said, yeah, isn't that something? And he goes, now wait a minute. The Giants are undefeated, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, yes, they are. And the Giants won the Super Bowl last year, right?
Yeah.
And I said, they did. And he goes, well, then that's it. That means that we won the Super Bowl. All these years we've been waiting for this. And as I'm getting ready to leave, they gave us the Super Bowl. And my dad died thinking the Browns won the Super Bowl.
You're like, he's like, yo, I'm taking this one.
I'm like,
counts for me.
It's for me. It was the Super Bowl.
Right.
So I know there have been more meaningful wins since they've been back in '99, wins that made you feel better. But for me, that October night, 2 or 3 days before my dad passed, was it for me.
Yeah.
Because my love of sports came from him.
Yeah.
And we thought we were going to break the championship drought and finally get to see one together in 07 when the Indians made it to the ALCS and they had a 3-1 lead on the Red Sox. And
look at you. I know.
Or 3-2 lead. I flew out to Arizona and they lost Game 6 and they lost Game 7. And they didn't go to the World Series.
When they was up through, one in Dennis Bird, who was pitching?
I don't know because I actually had to watch that game on delay with my dad. When I flew, I said, I'm turning off my phone. I had the car scheduled to pick me up at the airport and take me to my dad's house, my mom and dad's house in Phoenix. And my dad had said, I'm not going to watch it. I'm not answering the house phone. No one's answering the cell phone. We'll watch it together.
I like that.
I'm getting up to get off the plane, and a guy recognizes me from Cold Pizza and says, Jay, I'm sorry about your Indians. And I almost had a heart attack. I'm like, what? Oh, you didn't hear that they lost? I had to go to Phoenix, go to my dad's house, and sit there and watch a game with my dad that I already knew they got pounded.
That hurts.
And what was interesting to me was because I knew the outcome and he didn't, it was fascinating for me. And again, he was fighting cancer the whole last several years of his life. He knew that would probably be our last chance to do it. They fall down big early. Red Sox keep piling on runs. And here's my dad, body all riddled with cancer, saying, hey, this isn't over. Come on. I mean, we get a couple here, we get a couple there. And I already knew the outcome.
And when you know them couple ain't coming, that's devastating.
I knew.
When you knew the rally was not to be had.
No, it was horrible. So for my dad to think right before he died that we won the Super Bowl because we beat the undefeated defending Super Bowl champs, I don't know that there will be a more meaningful Browns game for me ever.
And you know what? If it wasn't for that, I knew Jay was going. I thought he was going to go to the Baker Mayfield comeback in Cincinnati.
That was a big win. Though.
That was huge.
Like, you got to think about it.
Odell that went out.
The personal touch for me.
Yeah, that obviously was in there. You had to have that number one. For that game.
I remember the game you're talking about, though.
Odell jumped on his back and got hurt.
It looked like
Odell tore his ACL, and then Baker just riddled off like, what was it, 28 straight
one
points?
after another after another.
And then he hit DPJ
on that back shoulder.
Back shoulder to DPJ for the game.
And then it was crazy because the narrative was
Hollywood Higgins was like
unstoppable.
A real receiver when he was with Baker.
Is he still in the league?
I don't think so.
Why did they play that kid?
He went to Carolina a couple years ago.
He had the sweetest end zone dance or celebration.
He did. Like he had like. He would be playing, and he would be like people. You say he's not a good practice player, but he was. If Baker was playing, he's open every play.
It was amazing.
He's just open.
It's just crazy how you'd have a rapport with a guy like that, and then you got OBJ, and there was just nothing there.
He got hurt jumping on somebody's back.
Right.
And I'm looking at like you think
only
about
in
it.
Brown's lore can that happen.
I mean,
I couldn't believe it because it was like he threw the pick, he tried to chase it down, he jumps on somebody's back,
and tears his ACL.
And his ACL is torn. I'm like,
how does that work? But that game was the catalyst for them running off them games.
It was. It
and
absolutely was.
They make the playoffs.
They got